All right, so sometimes when you're in Tekla structures, you just need a report property that isn't out of the box in the template editor. And you can use the API and custom property plugins to actually calculate and create that. So let me show you an example here. If I go to my reports list, I've created a report where I am getting the point-to-point length on beam parts here. So if I just go ahead and select those, you can see that I've got a string double and integer value output in this report. That gives me the point-to-point length there, since length is actually truly the end cut length after the cuts. So here, this point-to-point can be really handy for us. Now, what I want to do is show you how you can actually create that calculation here within the API. All right, now what I've done is I've created a new DLL project here, and I did this using essentially my project template that I've created that is on the Tekla warehouse, and it's called Tekla Custom Property Plugin. So when you create a new project, you call it whatever the DLL is going to be, give it some unique name here that makes sense, and then the project will be created, and then your namespace and everything will be all set here. The class does need to be public, but basically it's already got these built-in basic data return types, which is double, string, and integer, which is what the template editor will output and return. And so essentially you don't really need to change the structure of this, you just basically change the inner working of what's going on here. And so what happens is you define the variable name that's going to be used for the template editor, or if you say get report property in the API, and that's what you do up here. And then basically what's happening is this object identifier is being passed. So when the template editor is actually going through all the objects in the model, it passes this object ID to this plugin. And then what you need to do is you need to select that model object using the API. So here there's a method. So if we just go to definition, which brings us to the bottom. In this case, I'm trying to get a beam object because that's the only way that I'm going to get the point-to-point. Contour plates and polybeams aren't exactly the same, so this is specifically for beams. So basically what I'm doing is I'm saying a model object dot select model object, and you pass the object ID or the identifier. And then if that model object is truly a model object and that exists in the model, then that will pass, and we're going to try to cast it as a beam, and we'll pass that as the result. So up here, for instance, in the get double property, which would return a length value in this case in millimeters, if the father does cast as a beam, so if father is not equal to null, then I'm going to get the point-to-point distance between the start and the end point, and I'm going to return that as the result. If it's not a beam object, it's something else other than that, then I'm going to basically return always 0.0. And so on the string, I'm just doing a .to string of that, and then on the integer, I'm just rounding that and then casting that as an integer here once I round that to a whole value. So really that's it. This is, you leave these same basic three methods here and you put your inner workings of your code in these methods, and you can kind of create your own custom API methods that can be accessed as values in the Tekla template editor. Now, once you're done with this, you just go ahead and build it, and then it'll create, if I go to open file here, it will create the plugin, and then you're just going to copy this plugin over into the installation directory here. And so within Tekla structures, underneath environments, common, extensions, custom, and properties, this is where you're going to put those DLLs. So they do kind of need to go into this folder. If you make a TSEP or Tekla structures extension package, you're going to want those directories to install these plugin DLLs into here. And so once this is placed in there, we're just going to go ahead and launch Tekla structures and take a look. Now, when you start Tekla structures, if you go into the logs and then session history log here, you can go ahead and scroll up, and you can see that I've been running those reports. But here at the very beginning, when Tekla structures is loaded and you open up a model, basically what you see here are these are all the custom property DLLs and plugins that are being loaded. And see, somewhere in here is my point-to-point plugin. There it is. So I can see that that's loading. So you just may want to check this to make sure that your plugin is loading, so that way when you do test it out, you know that it is properly loaded and it read it from the appropriate directory. So next we're going to go to the template editor here by going to editors underneath the Tekla structures menu and going to template editor. And then basically we have the Tekla template editor open here. And I've already created a report. So this is just a text report, but you can also use this on your graphical templates. And so essentially here I've got a part row. All right, so this is a part object that's being output from selected parts. I've got my normal part mark or part position value field here, but then all I've done here is I've taken that custom dot point to point variable name here, and then I've done a number with decimals as one option, then I've done text as another option, and then I've also done a number as a third option here for the data type that's being output. So again, when we look at this custom dot point to point is coming from our code here, where we defined that name at the top of the plugin in this attribute here. All right, so now that we've got that set, it's pretty much that simple. You've got all of those there. We'll just save this. We just grab some stuff again in the model. We go find our report there. So scroll down to the bottom here, custom property report, create from selected, and there we go. We've got basically those values being output to us here. So we've got the double value being converted by the template editor properly to imperial, since that's what I'm working in. This is the integer output, and then this is the string output, I believe. So you can see the different types of output from those three methods in the plugin. Okay, so last thing we'll do is we'll cover taking a look at how do we actually call that plugin DLL and get that report property in an external application using the API. All right, so here I've got another project. This is just a Windows Forms application. It's an external application where I've referenced in the Tekla API here. And what I'm doing is I'm just saying, okay, let's go through all of the selected objects. So we're getting the selected objects in the model. We're getting the model object, and then I'm just simply using the get report property here. I can pass that custom point-to-point report variable name, and that gets the double value, and I could do string or int as well, and because those methods are inside of that plugin, I get some sort of value. And then I'm just basically outputting and reporting that to the command prompt. So let's go ahead and run this real quick. We'll go into the model, we'll just select on a beam here, and then we'll press the button, and then you see at the lower left hand corner it outputs 9144, which is the millimeter value based on that report property. If you'd like to get a copy of this plugin template, just go to the Tekla warehouse and type in custom property, and then here you'll see this appear by CMK BIM Consulting. You can then go to this, download this, and this downloads the Visual Studio DLL class library of that template project that I was just demonstrating. You can also subscribe to this particular extension here directly on the warehouse so you get notifications. And if you go to CMK BIM Consulting, you'll see that there's a variety of other tools that we offer that might be helpful in your production.